Welcome to the Book Binge. I'm your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and don't mind the burnt out lights back there. Good thing it's the very end of January, because I just, while recording these last few videos for the month, this whole strip of the lights over here went out. So in case the rest of that happens, I'd like to get through these videos before any problems arise. But anyway, this is my first time I've been doing a book haul in a while. That sentence was not grammatically correct in any way, shape, or form, but that's okay. The truth is, I was very unhappy with how many of my book hauls as of, recently, like basically last year, turned out. I said I'd discontinue them for a while and revitalize and, kind of do them when I had enough to show off in them. And well, I certainly have enough to show off physically in today's video. And from now on, that is how I plan to do things, is to only really show off physical stuff and to do it whenever there's enough to actually show off. I said I'd return to doing book hauls when I had a full index of my library as well, but I didn't actually finish that. So maybe at some point, the next time I do one of these, maybe that'll be ready for you. I don't know. But for now, like I said, we're returning to just physical books because that makes the most sense. Many of my hauls last year were garbage. I'm sorry for those. And instead of scheduling these, not quarterly, not monthly, I am just going to do them whenever I feel like. So yeah, this video is going to end up being pretty long. I apologize in advance. Let's just go ahead and begin and kind of follow a similar structure that I actually did before, because I was happy enough with that. The first thing I want to talk about is an arc that I did end up receiving at some point in the back half of 2025. That was for Mercy Tears of the Fallen by Chance Dillon. Have not had a chance to read this, but it is, the one physical arc that I got in the back half of 2025. I was hoping to read it early this year, in advance of book 2 coming out pretty soon, but I think it'll be a little bit later for that, unfortunately. I just have, too much Wheel of Time to finish, and I didn't want to be reading this, not dense per se, but a complicated epic fantasy book 1 right before I'm finishing off this series. So, I'll just hold off on that for a little while. The next couple things that I want to shout out were a couple gifts from friends, and one of those was handmade, actually. Grimdark magazine, issue number 34, which, if you don't know, this contains the story The Royal Game by Christopher Rocchio. That's where the story was originally found. And one of my friends who also made a handcrafted version of, what's it called? Fangs of Awanos. That's another novelette by Christopher Rocchio. He handmade a copy of that. It's on the shelf right there. It's that maroon thing. He also handmade a version of Grimdark magazine and just gifted these out to a handful of his friends at the Shadows Upon Time release event gala. So I got this as well. So that's pretty cool. Thank you, Classy, for making that. And then thank you as well to a friend, Nicelinum, I'm not sure if that's how that's pronounced, for giving me or gifting me Eisenhorn Omnibus for Christmas. So this is the whole Eisenhorn trilogy. I don't know if there's actually more in Eisenhorn than just the trilogy of books, but as far as Warhammer 40k goes, I am the pinnacle of noob. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that Eisenhorn is a popular recommendation for places to start, and it is the one where I will start based off of recommendations from friends and based off of how many people started here and had a really good time with it. So thank you for making my approach to Warhammer-ness so much easier when I do actually circle around to trying some stuff out in that universe. That is all for the arcs and the gifts. Let's go into all the things that I purchased for myself, because I'm a mad lad. The first one of these, I actually made its own video for as well. I'll go ahead and show off the map, because I forgot to show off the map in that video. Map of Etheria, which is the world of The Bound and the Broken by Ryan Cahill. So I got hardcovers of the whole series, because I was planning on getting the hardcovers at some point anyway, just kind of getting them more or less one at a time was originally the plan. Unfortunately, the paperbacks of these, the self-pub paperbacks, weren't really that high quality, but I had heard great things about the quality of the hardcovers of them. So I was like, okay, well, I got the first couple paperbacks, wasn't really a fan of their quality, so I wanted to get hardcovers. And then the Broken Binding got a publishing deal with Ryan and are doing the publishing for the books now. We're going to do that so that the last couple books still have the self-pub covers before they get the actual new publisher covers. And I decided I like the indie covers enough as is. So I pre-ordered the set of the hardcovers for, when Empires of Dust was coming out, or of Empires and Dust. So now I have a full hardcover set of what's out in the Bound and the Broken, and I will be collecting the rest of them here at, as they come out. I'm looking forward to getting the rest of these. I was considering doubling up and getting the pub copies as well. Kind of was getting hit by the FOMO a little bit, but then ultimately decided, nah, I don't need a second copy of this series. I'll have plenty with these, especially with how heavy these are. These are thick boys and very heavy paper, actually. I gotta say, they're very, very heavy books. Next up, we're going to get into a couple Christmas gifts that I basically gave to myself. It turns out I had a little bit of cashback stuff from Amazon somehow. No idea how that happened, but I had some, and decided to get a couple of paperbacks of series that I already have some books in that were not going to match the format of the books that I have them in, basically at any point. And because I was going to be getting them basically for free, I decided to pick them up in this format and justify it by, hey, it costs like $1. So I spent a total of basically $3 on The Armor of Light by Ken Follett and Outlander number 9. Outlander's back there on the shelf there. This was never going to end up coming to the mass market format that the rest of the books back there are in, so I was like, okay, well, I can justify getting it if I spend like $1 on it. And the Armor of Light was the same thing, getting the format that they're in, the UK trade paperback, ? I don't know the actual technical sizing of them, but there's the editions of the other 4 books in the Kingsbridge series, Pillars of the Earth, that whole thing, that I own already. And it was like, I don't feel like going through the hassle of trying to get a matching copy for those 4 books with this one, if one is ever produced or has been produced. I have no idea. So I was like, well, I can just very easily get the trade paperbacks of these 2. Like I said, with credits, I spent like $3 on these combined. So, that's a sacrifice I was willing to make, even though they're not matching size. It's okay. I didn't spend any money on them, basically. Next up, we're going to talk about Daughter of the Otherworld by Shauna Lawless, the author of Jail Song, which is like a mythological, historical series, is for Irish history and mythology, right? Irish? It's not Scottish, right? I'm pretty sure it's Irish. I really hope I'm not wrong about that. But in either case, Daughter of the Otherworld is the first book in like the second era of Jail Song. So I guess it's like a sequel trilogy or sequel series occurring to that. So I already own the other trilogy. I own the other novellas that she's written on, ebook. So I decided to get this because I saw it was coming out late last year and picked it up. I am excited to try Jail Song at some point, just not sure when that will be. Next up is pretty predictable. We're going to old familiar classic Christopher Rocchio here. I got the Empire of Silence Deluxe Edition, went ahead and pre-ordered that so that I would have a copy of it. So I have that now. That's pretty cool. And then I also got Shadows Upon Time, but you also see there's a book back there. That's because I forgot about my pre-order for Quail Ridge Books coming in, and then I got the copy from the actual release event gala up there. So now I have 2 hardcovers of Shadows Upon Time for myself because my Quail Ridge copy has it personalized to me, so can't do anything with this, like give it to somebody else, basically, because I was actually going to use that for other purposes that we'll talk about later, but because it has my name on it, I'm pretty sure I won't anymore. But in either case, that was the next purchase that I made. Speaking of that being personalized to Holden, which is my real name, speaking of Holden, Catcher in the Rye was another book that I purchased in the late half of 2025. Got this copy, and it was like between like a coupon and other stuff that was going on, I was able to get this for like $3 as well. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty worth trying to get, considering that I haven't read Catcher in the Rye yet, despite me sharing a name with the main character. Is a little bit surprising. It's surprising that I don't own this already, let alone that I haven't read it. So that's just a little bit weird. So I picked it up. No clue when I'll actually get to it, but now I have it in my library, I guess. The next up is going to be a little bit more of a niche offering, something that most people probably won't know or recognize. That is The Trilogy by Henryk Sienkiewicz. I almost assuredly mispronounced that last name. Polish is confusing to me. As somebody who has started learning Russian and German, Polish is like somewhere in between them in a really awkward spot that just breaks my brain. But The Trilogy, it's literally just called The Trilogy for reasons. It starts with with Fire and Sword. This is a gigantic monster of a book, by the way. It's just the first book. It's over 1,100 pages for reference. And then the second book is two bindings. So I got the hardcovers of those two for the Deluge, and I was supposed to get the hardcover for the third book as well, but it didn't end up shipping. So I had to reorder it, and I forgot to reorder it until recently, so it isn't here for this video. It'll probably be shown off in the next one, assuming it ships. Because trying to find these in these like formats and editions is pretty difficult. Trying to find them in general is pretty difficult, but the specific translation got recommended pretty highly to me, so I was pretty intent on that. So I have the hardcover for book 3 coming. The hardcover for book 1 was just not going to happen. Like I'm willing to spend a little bit of a premium to get solid bindings of stuff like this if it's something that I want to have, and I wanted to have these. So I did that for book 2, and for book 3 it was going to be way too expensive to get one for book 1, so I just got the paperback book 1 with the same translation. I figured that's good enough. So yeah, that's another thing that I got. The next thing was maybe the first purchase that I actually made following my last book haul video. That was the Penguin Deluxe version of Dracula by Bram Stoker, and that is because on Amazon there was a period of time, I don't know if this is still the case, but there was a period of time for a few months where it just seemed like this wasn't ever like available for some reason. Not entirely sure, so there was a point where I was like, okay, I actually kind of want that, to go on my Penguin Deluxe edition shelf in my bedroom. And it took a while for it to show up, and when it became available again, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it. So I did that. There's the back side of the cover, mind you, so that's a pretty neat addition. Another Penguin classic to go in the collection. I'm happy about that. The next one of these is, I'm pretty sure, another book that I did an unboxing for, kind of like I did for the Bound and the Broken. That is the deluxe hardcover of Revenge of the Sith by Matthew Stover, the novelization of the film, of course. If you take off the dust jacket, you can see the naked hardcover. This is just so gorgeous. There's also this text. I think the text is upside down. I would have preferred for it to be the other way, but this is how it feels to be Anakin Skywalker forever. Yeah, just really nice edition. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I did an unboxing, so there's that. But really happy to have this, and can't wait to actually read it at some point, because Revenge of the Sith is unironically my favorite Star Wars movie, and I can't wait to actually read that novelization, because people always just say such great things about it. So there's that. The next one of these is a Dragonsteel Nexus purchase. That is because Tori Tekken was in the booth literally right next to Christopher Rocchio's, where I was working at the con, and I decided that I would finally pick up a copy of the Bloodstones, which I've had in my wish list for a good long while, so I bought it directly from her at the con. So that was something that I did. I surprisingly didn't really do much exploring to actually talk to many other people at the con this year for some reason, and just didn't really do much with it, but it is what it is. She was right next to us, so I just went ahead and got a copy. So yeah, that is where we sit there. Next one of these items, speaking of Warhammer 40k earlier, this author, Matthew Ward, is actually the writer of some of the recent Warhammer property video games. So if you know the Vermintide games as well as Darktide, I know that he wrote those video games, for example, but he does some epic fantasy writing on his own time. And this book specifically was one that a friend of mine, Eco, had gifted to me, I think for my birthday in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And he bought me book 2 of the Soulfire Saga, just to troll me, because he is known for doing that. He also at one point gifted me the 4th book of the Lonesome Dove Saga when I didn't own any of the other 3 yet. So, that's the way to encourage me to actually buy the rest of the books. That's exactly what I did in this case. I bought 1 and 3 of Soulfire Saga to actually go with that second one there. And I'm not entirely sure if this is a trilogy or if it's going to be continuing onward into multiple books. I'm not 100% certain. But if it is a trilogy, I now have the whole set because I got the other 2. So there's that. Matthew Ward is one of my most anticipated authors. I hope to actually read his Legacy trilogy this year. Knock on wood, even though my hand's not wood. But in either case, the next item was also completing a set as far as it is available to be completed. That is Vinland Saga, book 14. So collecting a couple of the final volumes of Vinland Saga. There is 1 volume still left waiting to be translated that will probably make up the book 15. That'll be half the size. But I got all 13 of the, at the time, available books last year around Christmas time, and realized that I might want to try starting Vinland Saga this year, since I looked it up and realized it finished halfway through 2025, and I had no idea. That's how busy I was throughout the year. But in either case, I picked up this binding, and I'm looking forward to being able to get the last one and starting that, hopefully before too horribly long. The next item is, I guess, one of the last things. It's the second to last thing, basically. That is the Dragonsteel Nexus 2025 Grimoire Collection, done by Grim Oak Press, which, you know, contains some stories from various different authors, including like Ryan Cahill, Christopher Rocchio, just multiple other people in here. Got some of those signatures. I didn't do the best job about actually going out and trying to get signatures for this because, you know, I'm lame that way. But I did get some of that there, and I did pick this up at the con like intended. The main notable thing about this that's actually pretty funny is that you'll notice Ryan Cahill's signature here is in pencil. He says that that might have been the first time he's signed anything with a pencil, so I'm a first. Yeah, so that's fun. And I have one last thing that I need to grab. That is this absolute behemoth. It is the complete 100 book Apocrypha expanded 2024 edition. You know, it's got the Deuterocanon, you know, it's got the books of Enoch, there's a bunch of pseudepigrapha, apocrypha, all of that kind of stuff in there, and then of course a whole bunch of extra random stuff included in a digital library that I've already got downloaded as well. You might think, why in the world did I grab this? And that's because I'm a weirdo, and because I am morbidly curious about stuff like this. I genuinely intend to read many various different religious texts and stuff like that, including stuff that is not my own, you know, things like the Quran, for example, the Talmud, various different things that I would like to just kind of read through and out of curiosity, and also to kind of learn a little bit more about some of the belief systems out there in the world, and that includes within my own religion, which is Christianity, of course. And I think that Apocrypha as a concept is very fascinating, especially when you look through, you know, some of the stuff that is included in some versions of the Bible, but not other versions of the Bible, including like the Catholic Bible, for example, has some books that, you know, the main Protestant version doesn't, and there are other books included in some other versions, and then a bunch of like actual just straight up apocrypha that's like, this isn't part of the Bible, but at one point or another may or may not have been considered for part of it. You know, just I think that there's a lot of really interesting material that could be read here, and so I picked this up because I'm interested in reading that, just like I said, out of morbid curiosity. So, you know, I'm also of the opinion personally that even if something isn't strictly factually true or like theologically true in regards to your personal beliefs or something, there can be nuggets of truth or nuggets of inspiration that can be found in various different things. And so I'm interested in checking this kind of stuff out, you know, once I've spent a little bit more time actually studying some of my own material in the first place. But yeah, so that is basically the book haul. There's one other thing to note at the end here that's like some giveaway items. I have most of 2 full sets of the Sun Eater in hardcover to give away at some point, and I acquired most of the rest of those hardcovers I need for those giveaways at some point. I just need to get copies of Kingdoms of Death, and then I need one more Shadows Upon Time. I was going to use my Quail Ridge Books Shadows Upon Time for that before I remembered that it has my name in it, so I'm not going to do that. So I do need to get a couple hardcover Kingdoms of Death and one hardcover Shadows Upon Time to actually make a couple full hardcover set giveaways possible. That is something that I'm interested in doing. But that is the book haul. That is a long video, quite the haul, a big one for semi-obvious reasons, but it is also much smaller than it otherwise would have been because I actually had my wish list closed for my birthday, which happened in October, so I didn't get bombed with a bunch of stuff at that point in time. So yeah, anyway, that is the end of the haul. Thank you for watching it. I hope you enjoyed. No idea, like I said before, when another one of these will come out, just whenever I have enough new physical books of mine to actually show off. And I'll maybe continue to do like certain unboxing related things for, you know, special editions and stuff that I get over the future as well, just because I think those are little fun bonus videos. So yeah, with all that said, that's the end of the video. Thank you one final time for watching. For now, I've been your host, King Crusoe. You can call me KC, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.